1.
Stand by SOT1.
Standing.
10 seconds. Ready, rolling. Ready, SOT1.
Ready.
In 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll in.
From legendary Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. And now, here's this week's edition of Work Comp Matters. And good afternoon, everybody. It is 12 noon straight up on December 13th, 2021. Welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters. I don't know why my partner, John Scalia, isn't here. I will go ahead and send him an invite. Hold on, everybody, really quickly. Let's see here. There we go. Ping John, use Messenger. Good. We are still in our learning curve, going and streaming Clubhouse as well as Facebook Live. But welcome to the Work Comp Matters podcast. My name's Steve Appel, and I am born and raised in beautiful Southern California. John Scalia, my co-host. He has over 40 years of experience in California workers' compensation, employment, and labor law. And Work Comp Matters is brought to you by mancavepodcasting.com. If you want to do your own podcast where all you have to do is talk, 818-357-4120, and we will get your podcast on social media. We will produce, manage, direct, stream that sucker live, and then we will get it into the cloud forever. On the other hand, if you want to go on to mancavepodcasting.com, we have over 600 podcasts in the tank, and they are available at your disposal 24/7. It's completely free, no obligation, and they're available for you. So John hasn't come into the room yet, but that's okay. We have stories that we believe are of interest to you employees, employers, and of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. So the first story I want to talk about is from the Mercury News, and this came about this past weekend. It's entitled "Legal Experts Respond to Newsom Modeling Assault Weapons Law on Texas Abortion Bill." And here is your story. Governor Gavin Newsom announced plans late Saturday to create a new California assault weapons ban that would be insulated from many types of legal challenge, using as a model a controversial Texas abortion law the U.S. Supreme Court let stand last week. And constitutional scholars said Sunday that Newsom's approach may well be sound. Newsom is seeking to incorporate an innovative legal mechanism adopted by conservative Texas state leaders who imposed abortion restrictions enforced not by government, but by private citizens under the law. Citizens can file civil suits against doctors and clinics who perform abortions. And because state regulators are not involved in the enforcement process, abortion defenders are limited in their ability to sue the state to challenge it. The Supreme Court, with a 5-4 decision Friday, let the Texas approach stand, at least for now. It did so even though under Roe v. Wade, legal abortion remains the law of the land. continuing on with the story. And by the way, Scott, I don't see John in the room yet, so you just might want to bring him on Zoom. And if he's having technical issues with Clubhouse, just bring him on to Zoom, and he can comment. He can do the show on Zoom. Quote, I am outraged by yesterday's United States Supreme Court decision allowing Texas's ban on most abortion services to remain in place and largely endorsing Texas's scheme to insulate its law from the fundamental protections of Roe v. Wade, Newsom said in a Saturday night tweet. But if states can now shield their laws from review by the federal courts that compare assault weapons to Swiss Army knives, and California will use that authority to protect people's lives where Texas used it to put women in harm's way. In June, a federal court overturned California's current decades-long. My transcript just went to a advertisement. Sorry about that. Hold on really quickly. Here we go. In June, a federal court overturned California's current decades-long assault weapons ban, which uses a more conventional legal mechanism in which state government enforces the ban. The conservative judge who wrote the ruling downplayed the dangers posed by assault weapons, at one point likening them to Swiss Army knives. Later that month, a 3-judge panel on the United States Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals blocked the federal court's decision, stayed the judge's ruling, restoring the ban while court battles continued. Newsom said he will work with state legislators and Attorney General Rob Bonta to create a modified. Here we go. Sorry about that. Bonta to create a modified assault weapons law that allows California residents to seek damages of up to $10,000 per violation of the ban, plus attorney fees against anyone who manufactures, distributes, or sells assault weapons or ghost gun kits or parts in the state. Scott, you got to let me know if John is signed on here because he's not on Clubhouse. Continuing on, he added, if the most efficient way to keep these devastating weapons off our streets is to add the threat of private lawsuits, we should do just that. The governor's press office did not respond to additional requests Sunday for comment and details about the proposed legislation. The Texas abortion bill, SB 8, has been in effect since June. It outlaws abortion after cardiac activity is detected in the embryo, which is usually around 6 weeks. The law does not make exceptions for the instances of rape or incest. Scott, you'll got to let me know if John is with us on the Zoom. You're dialed into Work Comp Matters. We are, of course, on the mancavepodcasting.com. If you want to access 600 podcasts or more, they're completely free, no obligation. And we also have the ability to produce, direct, manage your own podcast. And we will get that streamed live forever. Berkeley Law School Dean and constitutional law expert Edwin Shermaninsky said that the United States Supreme Court's decision on Friday has opened a dangerous door by allowing citizen suits to enforce questionable laws. It is likely, he said, that many states could now adopt laws that allow citizens to be sued for constitutionally protected activities. And I see John is finally on Clubhouse. Oh, I love that. Before I continue, let me mod John up. And of course, I have to ask, John, have you heard any of the last 10 minutes of the podcast or no?
No.
Okay, very good. John, I was talking about Gavin Newsom on Saturday. He came out in response to the Texas abortion law, and legal experts have responded to Newsom's modeling assault weapon law on the Texas abortion bill. I've been talking about how Gavin Newsom has been championing, I'm saying that wrong, has been endorsing a future bill that will allow California citizens to civilly sue other citizens for assault weapons, which mirrors the Texas abortion law. It's on our news cycle. I don't want you to respond to it now. Let me go ahead and do a very brief break, and then you can come back if you want and talk about that, or just say because of technical difficulties, you can read your news stories. But thank you very much for joining Work Comp Matters. We are sponsored by mancavepodcasting.com. We have over 600 podcasts in the tank. They're completely free, no obligation. And if you want to do your own podcast, it's only $50. The content is all yours. All you have to do is talk. We will. You can be anywhere in the world. All you need is a smartphone or a computer. We will manage, produce, and direct. Get your podcast stream live and then into the cloud forever. So, John, on our newswire, I was talking about the Gavin Newsom story. And I'm sure you heard about this weeks ago. I had heard about this, where people were saying, look, if the Supreme Court allows the Texas law to stand, arguably, you can apply the same principles of that law to guns and assault weapons. And here we are in this past weekend where Governor Newsom is doing exactly that. Did you want to comment, have a discussion, or because you kind of had some technical issues, do we want to talk about other stories?
Oh, no, I want to comment.
Of course I know. That's why you're my buddy for the past couple of years. So hang on, John. Let me give you the proper introduction that you're entitled to. John Scalia has been in California workers' compensation, employment labor law for 40 to 45 years. He recently retired or semi-retired about 7 to 8 years ago. He then moved out to Munich, Germany, to not only endorse, but live the socialist life. He has written a couple of books. He is my regular co-host on Work Comp Matters. He loves to, and I love to refer to him as not only the madman across the water, but the socialist voice of reason. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my co-host, Mr. John Scalia.
Well, let me say that, I was in favor of gun control, and Gavin Newsom was in diapers if he had even been born. In fact, I don't think he had been born. And I was actually active in promoting, hoping for anti-gun legislation and promoting it back as early as 1968. So, he's a latecomer to my party. Let me say this, okay? He's not a lawyer. I am, or I was. And it shows. The fact that something is a bad idea doesn't mean you should adopt it or adapt it. Just because the Supreme Court is insane and refuses to outlaw that inane Texas law, which is a terrible, terrible law, does not mean that you should go ahead and copy it just to accomplish your own purposes. Let me tell you a story about that, okay? The story it's about Thomas More. I don't know if you've ever seen A Man for All Seasons, but More was a lawyer, and he was the Chancellor of England, and he was advisor to the king. And he was a nuisance because he believed in due process, he believed in the law, and he was getting in the way of the things King wanted to do. And finally, based on comments the king made, he was assassinated. But Moore told the following story. He told a student, he said, well, you know, what if you're after a bad guy and the bad guy is hiding behind the law, and the law is like a shield. It's like a tablet. He says, what do you do? And the student says, well, I get rid of the law. I throw it away. And Moore says, well, what do you do when he goes to the next one? He says, I throw that away. And he keeps going on and on. Finally, he says, okay, you've thrown them all away, right? And Moore looks at the guy and he says, what stands between you and the bad guy now? And that's the point. The point is, when something is wrong, it's just wrong. You shouldn't adapt it to your own purposes, no matter how right you are on the specific purpose. And it's a bad law. It's insane. It's nuts. And Gavin Newsom is wrong. Okay, that's my opinion on that one.
All right. And of course, we are podcasting both live on Facebook as well as Clubhouse. John and I will stick around after the show, which is going to end in about 13 minutes. If anybody wants to come up and ask a question or so, you are more than welcome to raise your hand and we'll bring you up. We can talk about that, or we can talk about the stories of the day that John and I are going to read. But what can I say? Here now is our newswire. John, you can start. Go for it. John, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
I'm still getting used to this mute and unmute.
Yeah, I know that's okay. Well, we'll talk about that housekeeping issues after the show. Go for it, John, with the first story.
This is from the San Francisco Chronicle. Due to parish worries, SF Church delays Archbishop Cordileone's visit after he reveals he's unvaccinated. The Catholic Church in San Francisco pushed back a visit from Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone, scheduled for a December 19 Mass, after he recently revealed that he's unvaccinated. Pastor and Jesuit father George Williams informed the parish of St. Agnes Catholic Church in the Haight, that's the Haight-Ashbury folks, of the decision in a church bulletin last weekend. He wrote that he called the Archbishop and asked him to reschedule his visit for a later time, quote, because many people in the parish had expressed concern about this, close quote. Williams did not specify a later date for a visit. When I was a kid, I was brought up Catholic, and I always wondered why the Catholic Church had anything against communism, because the organizations are modeled pretty much exactly the same way. And in case you're wondering why San Francisco has a right-wing reactionary archbishop as its archbishop, the answer is really simple. He was appointed by the Nazi Pope, Ratzinger, Benedict. And Benedict was in charge of the doctrinal commission of the Catholic Church to make sure that everyone towed the line, kind of like the Marxist ideology division of the Catholic Church. And this guy has been outspoken against gay marriage. I mean, he is a complete, total reactionary. So there's something absolutely hilarious about this guy being the Archbishop of San Francisco. And I would point out that the guy who disinvited him is a Jesuit pastor. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Catholic Church, it has very different orders of priests. And the Jesuits happen to be very intellectual. The current Pope happens to be one. And it's not surprising that this guy would tell the Archbishop to, go take his pastoral visit somewhere else.
John, my story next up is from behind the orange curtain, which means it's from Orange County Register. They're the most vulnerable to severe disease and death. They're the most vaccinated slice of the population, yet COVID-19 cases are ticking up, nevertheless, among seniors living in many California nursing homes. California Department of Public Health says we've seen a small number of skilled nursing facility outbreaks over the past few weeks, said Dr. Matthew Zahn, Deputy County Health Officer for Orange County. It's not clear at this point whether this represents a larger trend, but our experience so far indicates that these outbreaks are related to lower booster dose rates in facility residents. I just have a question. How come old people or anybody for that matter in nursing homes are not fully vaccinated and boosted up? John, I don't understand.
I don't get it either. It's your country, not mine. I mean,
There you go. You got the next story, John.
Beverly Hills firefighters sue over vaccine mandate they call experimental gene modification. Two Beverly Hills firefighters are suing over LA County's mandate that healthcare workers be vaccinated against COVID-19. It's the latest salvo in the heated battle between some public sector employees and governments over public health requirements, which have seen workers stage protests and mount legal actions. The lawsuit, filed Friday in Los Angeles Superior Court on behalf of Josh Satley and Ettore Berardinelli Jr. We Italians are in the news these days.
I like the way you pronounce that, John. You want to say it one more time?
Sure, Ettore Berardinelli Jr.
Oh,
Yes,
John, I'm going to give you a drum beat for that. There you go, buddy. Please continue.
I was cheating. As a kid, I spoke Italian. But anyway, names the city of Beverly Hills, Councilman John Mirisch, Los Angeles County and County Health Officer Muntu Davis. At issue is the rule announced in August that all county healthcare workers, which include first responders, be vaccinated unless they have medical reasons or religious beliefs that would exclude them. Neither Davis nor the city has the power to issue such an order, says the lawsuit, which also refers to COVID-19 vaccines as, quote, and this is taken from the pleadings, experimental gene modification therapies, close quote. And it goes on. Firefighters and other first responders have served courageously throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Scott Street, an attorney for the plaintiffs, wrote in an email, they were on the front lines, blah, blah, blah. The work of emergency puts them in the front lines. Okay, so here's the deal. As you know, I represented both the county of LA and firefighters, and I've represented both management and labor.
And I'm born and raised and continue to live in Southern California. Please continue, John.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is that, the one thing I learned by representing them and opposing them is that they are really like spoiled children. They have so many benefits in the law that the average person wouldn't even come close to getting. You have no idea. They have powerful lobbies. They have powerful PACs that contribute to politicians, Gavin Newsom among them. And so they have friends in high places. And they're not used to being treated like the rest of us. And they just don't like it when they're treated like the rest of us. And that's what this comes down to, plain and simple.
And we love plain and simple. Staying with Southern California, the number of coronavirus patients in Los Angeles County hospitals surged past 700 this past Saturday, December 11th, and signs of winter spike in COVID cases. There are 707 COVID patients at county hospitals, up from 684 on Friday, according to the latest state figures. The number of those patients being treated in intensive care is 182, up from 165. So if I go to my fifth or sixth grade math, that looks about 10%. John.
This is from the Hill. Fauci, if it becomes, we're full of Italians today. If it becomes necessary to get yet another boost, then we'll just have to deal with it. White House medical advisor Anthony Fauci on Sunday said health officials will, quote, have to deal with it, close quote, if it is determined that another COVID-19 booster shot is necessary to protect against the virus. But said he is hoping that additional jabs will not be needed due to protection from initial booster shots. If it becomes necessary to get yet another boost, then we'll just have to deal with it when that occurs. But I'm hoping that from an immunological standpoint, that the third shot of an mRNA and the second shot of a J&J will give a much greater durability of protection than just the 6 months or so that we're seeing right now, Fauci told host George Stephanopoulos, who, by the way, I believe used to be, wasn't he Clinton's press secretary or somebody's press secretary?
I don't know. Oh, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
On ABC this week. So there you go. I mean, it may end up being like the flu shot where we have to get one every time you turn around, which, is an inconvenient, but nonetheless, I mean, and again, it goes back to what I said before. If doctors had just been honest at the very beginning and saying, we really don't know what's going on, and we're just going to play this by ear, as they keep changing their tune, it wouldn't be as surprising. But but they do keep changing their tune, and that's because they never do admit that they may not have an idea what's going on.
Yes, and John, I couldn't agree more. When I got my J&J one and done April 1, What is it about 1-1 that people don't understand? Now, Fauci wants to come out and, say that, well, they were wrong then. That was then. This is now. I get it. But I'm still pissed about one and done. I've got my last news story of the day. We got 4 minutes left in the show. And then those of you on Clubhouse, John and I will stick around for a couple of minutes if you want to come to the stage. Longtime Facebook veteran Andrew Bosworth insists that political and COVID-19 misinformation are societal problems rather than issues that have been magnified by social networks. Critics say Facebook and other social networks have played a significant role in vaccine hesitancy and the spread of political misinformation. Individual humans are the ones who chose to believe or not believe a thing. They are the ones who chose to share or not to share a thing, Bosworth said in an interview with Axios on HBO. Quote, I don't feel comfortable at all saying they don't have a voice because I don't like what they said. Close quote. That's my last story. We got 3 minutes left. John, you can do your last story, combination of both, whatever you want to do, my man.
Yeah, I want to comment on the story about Facebook. I mean, that is disingenuous in the extreme. I mean, what they should have asked them point blank is, well, let me ask you this, if the KKK came to Facebook and said, we want a homepage and we want to start posting our message, what would you do? Would you just say, well, yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, and if anybody wants to believe it, that's just fine and dandy. I don't think that's what would happen if the KKK came to Facebook. So they do have an obligation. Yeah, not everybody's the KKK, not everybody's that off the radar, but they have an obligation to at least vet a story to make sure that it has a reasonable relationship to something that may be true. Just because you can't prove it's true doesn't mean it shouldn't be there. But when you know that it's fantasy land, you should vet it and you should prohibit it. And the idea to say, well, it's up to individuals to believe whatever they want, and we have nothing to do with it when you're on a platform that has 2 billion users and growing is just ridiculous.
And of course, the KKK did come about 50 years ago to Skokie, Illinois. They were threatening to walk down the main street. Skokie, Illinois was more than 70% Jewish, whereas the general population for Jews, both in the United States and around the world, is about 2.5%. In Skokie, it's over 70%. It went to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court said, yeah, the KKK absolutely has the right to protest. And what happened? They did not protest. I'll leave the reasons why up to the KKK. But we are at the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for contributing. If you're on Clubhouse now, stick around. John and I will stick around for a few minutes to answer your questions once the podcast is over. I want to thank very much Scott Walton of Legendary Uncle Studio, mancavepodcasting.com, my compadre and my partner, John Scalia, out in Munich, Germany. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you again Friday at 12 noon, live for another edition of Work Comp Matters. Bye, everybody.